pronounce it Kratom. And we are going to discuss, should we regulate it? Should we ban it? So this should be a fun conversation. With that, Senator Reichman, do you have any opening remarks?
Nothing to open with.
Senator Knox?
Same.
All right, we'll start over here.
Tom Cope here, just really to hear the discussion. We're not registered against the bill or haven't, we're undecided at this point. Here on behalf of Casey's General Stores. Casey's does not sell or offer Kratom. But I was interested in hearing how the discussion goes.
Sarah Trainer, Department of Inspection, and Licensing. We currently, when we see this product in a gas station, not Casey's, but other gas station, we do ask them to pull it. However, places that we do not regulate or do not license.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sarah Trainer, Department of Inspection, Appeals and Licensing. We license convenience stores, restaurants, grocery stores. If we see a product during one of our inspections that is not regulated by or not approved by FDA, such as Kratom, we will ask them to pull it from the shelves. However, there's a lot of places where this is sold that we don't regulate. So we feel like the bill would help kind of make that more universal.
Hi, my name is Sheldon Bradshaw. I'm with the Scientific Association for Chemical Education and Research. I was hoping that I could have 2 or 3 minutes to find opposition to the bill. Do I do that now? Great. So by way of background, I'm an FDA regulatory attorney. I previously served as the General Counsel of the United States Food and Drug Administration, Deputy Assistant Attorney General of the U.S. Department of Justice, both of which during the Bush administration.
Is he drinking an energy
As
drink?
you're likely aware, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the United States Department of Health and Human Services,
They're not FDA
recently
approved.
asked the U.S. Department of the DEA to schedule a compound called 7-hydroxymethyltryptamine. The DEA has accepted the recommendation, is actively preparing an emergency rulemaking to schedule 7-OH, which is a synthetic compound derived from mitragynine, which is the primary alkaloid in Kratom. We understand that that emergency rulemaking may come out in the next 30 days or so, but under Iowa law, the Iowa Board of Pharmacy would then initiate the rulemaking to follow the DEA's schedule. Importantly, the FDA and HHS made this recommendation to the DEA. They specifically stated that their interest was not in the natural botanical Kratom, which is lawfully marketed in the United States and regulated by the FDA as a botanical. And in fact, when they issued their press release, the FDA took pains to note that their actions today were not focused on natural Kratom leaf products. Indeed, when the FDA Commissioner, Dr. Marty Macri, recently warned consumers about products containing 7-OH, he specifically stated that they bear no resemblance to the botanical Kratom that people have consumed for centuries. At the FDA's request, the Department of Justice has been actively seizing products containing 7-hydroxymethyltryptamine, which are easily distinguished from Kratom, and not taking any action against Kratom products, which are marketed under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act as botanicals, therefore dietary supplement. In short, federal health agencies, HHS, FDA, even the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, opposes this and opposed it very aggressively about a decade ago when the DEA first even considered scheduling Kratom. And that scheduling effort was shot down due to the opposition of federal regulators. It's consumed for its pain relieving properties, talking about Kratom now, it's currently used on 20 million Americans throughout the United States. Rather than moving to schedule Kratom, the FDA is actively conducting its own clinical trials on the chemical. First of FDA's clinical studies was completed in 2024. It showed that mitragynine, which is the primary alkaloid in Kratom, is safely used and it's well tolerated in populations. The ascending dose study that they conducted was in the adult population and use up to 140 milligrams of mitragynine, which is 7 times the amount of mitragynine in a typical serving of a commercial kratom product. In short, the national botanical kratom shows great promise and relatively low risk. As a result, federal healthcare regulators do not want the botanical schedule. SABR shares the risk-benefit assessment and therefore opposes AF-53. SABR would, however, support the passage of Kratom Consumer Protection Act, which would impose common sense restrictions on kratom. 17 other states, including a number of neighboring states, have done that, while simultaneously banning synthetic derivatives like 7-OH, and that's what would strongly encourage the state of Iowa. Would be happy to answer questions that you may have. But it would so anyway would help the committee.
Hi there, Jen Rashi.
Can I have one question? Sorry. Good. Back to.
Turn it back on.
So your last comment about working, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure what
That one mattered, that one is. All right, so your last comment, about working to find a solution, it sounds like the federal government may come up with some solutions that maybe supersede what we're trying to do here, regardless of what you're saying, what we do. Are the solutions available within this bill the way it's written, or would it have to be completely rewritten?
It would need to be rewritten. The current bill bans both kratom and 7-OH. What the federal government is doing and what 17 other states have already recently done is to ban 7-OH. These derivative synthetics absolutely should be banned. They're dangerous. They're opioids. They have no business being in the marketplace. But kratom should be regulated. It's already regulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. But what the states have done with these Consumer Protection Acts is they've added some additional requirements like age gating, requiring product to be 21 and older. Certain labeling information and warnings that states have added through these Kratom Consumer Protection Acts. But most importantly, they also add a requirement that the label clearly distinguish if the product contains 7-OH. And that's an easy way if there's a concern about, well, how does the state differentiate between kratom and 7-OH or these synthetic derivatives? It can be easily done the same way 17 of your sister states have done it, by requiring that information on the label. Legitimate kratom products already carry that information on their label. They also comply with the labeling requirements of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, whereas 7-OH products do not. They're very easy to distinguish between. In addition, kratom products conduct testing on their products. That's also required by these state Kratom Consumer Protection Acts. And it's very easy to set up a regime where the states can see the results of those testings through asking for certificates of analysis that show that the product is actually kratom and not one of these synthetic derivatives. So the states have found other sort of common sense requirements that make it very easy for the states to distinguish between kratom and 7-OH, and to ban 7-OH, and to allow consumers to continue to have access, if they're over age 21, to appropriately labeled kratom products. I answer your question, or?
Yeah. So let me ask too. So if you had said that it's a synthetic derivative or synthetic version of the Kratom, is it synthetic? I mean, is it in respect to what we saw before with the K2 and marijuana, that it's a synthetic, maybe causes some of the same effects, but very, very harmful?
Yeah. So what's happening is kratom leaves, when they're oxidizing, may have a very trace amounts of the mitragynine, which is one of the alkaloids in kratom. Very trace amounts will convert into 7-hydroxymitragynine through oxidation. And so what some entrepreneuring chemists have concluded is that if we take mitragynine, basically I call these bathtub chemists, and we expose it to harsh chemical reagents that are oxidizing agents. Think of things like pool shock, Drano, bleach. They're then exposing mitragynine to these and creating a whole new compound, which has the name 7-hydroxymitragynine. So again, there may be trace amounts, and we're talking like 0.00 amounts of 7-OH in natural kratom leaves that results through oxidation, but they're able to get it up into the 90+% of pure 7-OH. They're then encapsulating or otherwise selling 7-OH, but it's synthetic. It's made through the miracle of chemistry. It's not a natural plant. The 7-OH industry may try to masquerade as kratom, but again, others, on their labeling, they want to market their products as 7-OH. They typically put 7-OH or claim to be a kratom alkaloid or something like that. But these are dangerous drugs. They operate like opioids. And in fact, that's why the FDA wants to schedule 7-hydroxymitragynine, is that the fear is that it's the next wave in the opioid epidemics that we've unfortunately gone through in this country. But it's 7-OH. It's not the natural leaf, the natural botanical, which has been used safely for centuries.
So those people are getting a much condensed, higher purity. So it's much beyond what you said the safe level for a person to consume.
Sure. And in fact, a lot of kratom products you're going to see have 0 7-OH in them, or very, very de minimis trace amounts, legitimate kratom products. But that, as a result of state law, requires manufacturers to include that information on their label. So it's very easy for a retailer or a consumer or a state regulator now to look at the label and know if it's a legitimate kratom product or if it's a dangerous 7-hydroxy or synthetic product derived from mitragynine, but through a synthetic chemical process.
Sure. One more, obviously, one more question for me. Do you know why my son, who's just enlisted in the military, and then I talked to another military person, and why kratom is listed as one of the banned substances for U.S. military?
I think one of the issues that's come up is the 7-H industry, the 7-hydroxy industry. They've been trying to masquerade their products as kratom. So they will tell people this is kratom. They'll put the words kratom on their labeling. They will use vignettes of kratom leaves. And so a lot of people who've been harmed by 7-OH are left with the impression that they were harmed by kratom. That's one of the things that the FDA is in the process of working on once they have 7-OH banned, and what they've been doing is trying to help explain the differences between natural kratom and these compounds that masquerade as kratom that are really just synthetic drugs. So I think the Department of Defense is likely worried about members of the service taking what really has been 7-hydroxymitragynine, a synthetic opioid, and not natural kratom, not natural kratom. Ready to pass on?
Thank you. Yep.
Do you want to? Hi, okay. Good afternoon, Jen Ranchi, Legislative Liaison with the Department of Corrections. We're currently registered undecided on the bill. Because the legislation establishes a new criminal penalty, we're unable to assess the correctional impact at this time. The one thing that we wanted to note was that our agency has observed an increase in the introduction of this substance into our facilities. And it does represent an escalating threat to security and public safety within our facilities, just because the physiological and the behavioral effects that it has had on the individuals is oftentimes more severe and volatile than other such as K2 that we've seen historically. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention. Yeah.
Spraying compound on paper before.
From addiction and toward treatment every time we can. I'd also like to see penalties for the people that are selling these products, not just the people who are possessing them. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning. I'm Katie Hall. I'm here in personal interest. I don't, have the background of being an attorney for the kratom industry, so I won't dig in on that side. What I have experienced is something quite personal. Whew. Guys, regular kratom is not okay. It all starts here, right? I've seen young adults go from having very vibrant lives to addiction, treatment. We need to ban kratom. I'm trying to keep my cool, but this gets me worked up. They're going to say it's a botanical like coffee, and it's just not. There is no separation in my mind. I have personal experience with a young adult under 21 getting access to this product because it was billed as safe, because it was billed as a mood enhancer, because it was something that he had been told was okay. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Josie Wago, Department of Public Safety. We are currently registered undecided, but I want to be very clear that we do support the premise of the bill in scheduling kratom as a Schedule 1 controlled substance. Our undecided registration just simply comes from, in our analysis of the bill, it doesn't adequately cover the synthetics, which we think is really important. So if there was an amendment to include language that would cover synthetics, we would be registered in support of it. Today I have with me Susie Scher from the Office of Drug Control Policy. I'm going to turn it over to her to kind of talk further about kratom numbers here in Iowa specifically.
Thank you. I'm Susie Scher. I'm Bureau Chief of the Iowa Office of Drug Control Policy. We're part of the Department of Public Safety. I would like to take just a minute to counter a few of the points that have been made and that you'll likely hear. First, the compound 7-OH is in fact found in the natural kratom plant. It is in low percentages, up to 2% of the plant, but the compound itself is found in kratom, in the natural botanical plant. So we have mitragynine, which is the primary compound, and then we have 7-hydroxymitragynine, which is 7-OH, which is the easier way to say it, which is also found in the plant. So if you go down the regulatory route, it's not as easy as some would like to make you think it is to differentiate, right? So if we send a product off to the DCI lab, they can test for those compounds and they can identify that, yes, in fact, 7-OH is found in this product. But there's no way to know if that's the 7-OH that's in the natural kratom product that was presented, or if it's 7-OH, the synthetic version that, to your point about K2 and the THC products and those kinds of things where they're synthesizing them and they're producing them at very high potent doses. That is happening, absolutely, without a doubt. So we have a couple different issues there, right? The compound is found in the plant, and so it makes it very difficult to just try to regulate it based on what is or is not in that particular product. Also, the first reports of 7-hydroxymitragynine reported to the DEA's National Forensic Laboratory Information System happened in 2025. So these synthetic compounds are relatively new to the market. So the adverse effects that have been reported for many years are likely from the kratom plant before these synthetics started taking over the market. So the FDA's adverse event reporting system reports 1,486 cases of both herbal mitragynine and 7-OH adverse events. 1,387 of those were serious and 715 involved death. In Iowa, we've had 92 cases reported by our state medical examiner where mitragynine, that primary percent just in the last couple of years. Most of those are intentional abuse, misuse, or withdrawal. That's why they're calling the Poison Control Center. So we're seeing happening with the kratom plant itself And based on the fact that these newer compounds are just coming into the market recently, we can go back a long time and see that there are in fact health effects that are happening. We've also heard now for a couple
raised
of
my
years that babies are being born here locally in our Des Moines area hospitals, going into the NICU with opioid withdrawal symptoms. We don't have numbers
from misdemeanor to felony. That approach turns a consumer health issue into a criminal justice issue without addressing the core public health goal, which should be product safety. If Iowa's goal is consumer protection, there is a better science-based alternative: regulate kratom through enforceable standards. A modern regulatory approach would include age restrictions, accurate labeling, manufacturing controls, contaminant testing, and strong enforcement against adulterated products. That type of framework enhances safety while maintaining access for adults who report significant benefits. In summary, HF 2133 is not evidence-based regulation. It is prohibition, and it risks causing harm through criminalization and market displacement. I respectfully urge the committee to vote no and instead pursue responsible regulatory standards. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Kulpa. I'm with the organization Botanicals for Health and Wellness as well. I'm speaking in opposition to the bill. Kratom, or Mitragynine speciosus, is a natural botanical in the same plant family as the coffee plant. It is most often used for an energy boost, mild mood-enhancing effects. It is a relatively mild effect that's similar to coffee or tea. Kratom has been used for centuries for therapeutic reasons and has been used in the United States for over 3 decades. In the last 5 years, we've seen over 400 peer-reviewed medical and scientific articles supporting the therapeutic use of kratom in an adult population from institutes such as Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and the University of Florida. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has published their own human clinical trial on kratom, showing that it is well tolerated in adult population and in large amounts, amounts that well exceed that's available in the consumer market. Despite statements to the contrary, kratom is regulated by the federal government. Kratom is a botanical and sold as a dietary ingredient. The FDA has specific rules related to manufacturing, testing, labeling, and label claims related to the sale of those kratom products, similar to that of traditional food products in the U.S. Kratom is not a pharmaceutical. It is a natural plant. Therefore, you're not going to have a situation where it would be prescribed for a specific use and it would be seeking pre-market approval. The FDA does not approve, quote unquote, dietary ingredients. There is a abundance of caution that needs to be taken by companies for a reasonable basis for safety for those products being out there. But unlike pharmaceutical products, dietary ingredients are not approved by the federal government. In addition to the FDA regulations, 17 states have passed legislation favoring the sale of kratom within those states, subject to certain levels of testing, labeling, and age gating. It also restricts the amount of 7-hydroxymitragynine that might be in these products and restricts the use of other synthetic non-natural components. In many of these regulation regimes, manufacturers are required to submit third-party certificates of testing from independent labs in order to confer what is actually in those products. This includes testing for the absence of residual solvents and heavy metals, as well as the doping or indoctrination of other synthetic ingredients into the product. Enforcement has occurred in many of these markets, and including markets such as Kentucky and Florida, where they actually scheduled 7-OH and had a parallel regime that was
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to unmute my speaker, but yes, I'm Susan Cave. I speak in support of banning / scheduling kratom. I had my son died, and it was less than 2 years ago from whole leaf kratom, and I'm since then become an advocate to try to get this poison off the shelves. But what I want to ask you is, do you really think that regulations are enforceable, and how much will that cost you? Do you think regulations can keep up with the ever-evolving $1.5 billion kratom industry? And as some of the pro-kratom people that just spoke said, do you not think bad actors are going to enter the market and exploit whole leaf kratom and synthesize all the little alkaloids that are contained in that into something very deadly and potent? How are you going to stop that if you leave raw kratom on the shelves and just ban 7-OH and synthetics? Do you really think people can be responsible kratom consumers when so little is known about how to safely consume kratom? There's no lethal dose established, how it interacts with other drugs, what the long-term effects are of chronic use, how it may affect a person with underlying health conditions. My son took Kratom to alleviate and supplement his antidepressants, and that's what he died from. He died from a mixture of Kratom and his prescribed antidepressants. But there are plenty of people out there who have family members that have died just strictly from mitragynine. And I also encourage you guys to take a real close look at Kratom. Look at the statistics and data and studies presented by both sides, both pro and against. And please don't just let this, please learn about Kratom because it's killing people. Thank you so much. I support your efforts to ban and schedule Kratom. I want it off the shelves. Thank you.
Thank you. Misty?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to give you guys an example of the ramifications of banning whole leaf kratom. In November of 2022, a young man named Marshall Price was sentenced to 10 years in prison for having 200 grams of kratom. He was murdered in Greene County Jail in Arkansas 3 weeks later. Another example is Shayna Brown, a young woman who was arrested for having 250 grams of kratom. She had a $1 million bond, and she is still looking at 10 to life. Now, I would like to say that, yes, 7-OH is similar to the K2 spice epidemic. You can easily tell the difference between a 7-OH product and a whole leaf kratom product. Babies being born to Suboxone and methadone. How come nobody, bats an eye about that? If you can enforce a kratom ban, you can enforce kratom regulations. Let me give you my testimony. From 2008 to 2019, I lived trapped in FDA-approved pain pills, benzols, and muscle relaxers prescribed for my degenerative disc disease. Over 11 years of chronic pain management turned into a full-blown addiction. What began as a dependency slowly became a cycle of misuse, desperation, and shame. In April of 2019, I was dismissed from pain management after failing a required pill count. I was short on my medication and couldn't find what I needed. Cut off from prescriptions, I turned to the streets, and in that desperation, I slipped into cocaine use while trying to find another doctor. By June of 2019, I was in withdrawal and at rock bottom when I watched a documentary called A Leaf of Faith. That moment changed everything. The next day, I walked into a smoke shop, showed my ID, bought whole leaf kratom, not synthetic 7-OH. Kratom quieted the relentless cravings, the voice that kept saying, one more pill, one more snort.
You're at 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mac?
Thank you. My name is Matt Caddo with the American Kratom Association. I just wanted to emphasize some very important points that have been made before you. You can tell the difference between a synthetic and natural leaf kratom in terms of the content of 7-OH. There is no 7-OH in a product above 2% of the overall fraction of the alkaloids. That's what's in 19 state bills. And anything above that is synthetic. It is easily identified and testing is available for it. The FDA and NIDA on their websites specifically say that kratom deaths are rare. And when they do occur, it's because of polydrug use and adulterated products and underlying health conditions. This needs to be analyzed in the context of accuracy because that's what public policy should do. The poison control centers, their reports are based on self-reports from consumers, and they have now designated in March of last year a 7-OH category because up until then they didn't make that distinction, and that's an important part of it. But I can tell you that if the FDA believed what is being said, and if the data proved it, they would obviously be pushing for natural kratom leaf products to be scheduled. They are not. They have evolved their science. Their own scientific data that Mr. Bradshaw referenced earlier is clearly on the record, And there is no basis for doing this. If we are going to take products off the market because someone deliberately adulterates them, then you wouldn't have Tylenol today because people died from someone adulterating Tylenol. The public policy approach is accurate data, good regulations, and banning the bad stuff. And we strongly encourage you as legislators to enact those kinds of provisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kurt? Kurt's hand is now down, I believe. Tia? Tia Gruce?
Hi, I just would like to say I am here to support a ban on Kratom. Regulation doesn't work. My daughter was 23. She didn't buy from gas station. She had nothing in her system on her toxicology report and her autopsy that said only said it was Kratom. I think a full ban is the only way to protect our citizens and get it banned. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Gillis?
Oh, that was.
Hi, yes, my name is Jennifer Gillis. And 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis and became a chronic pain patient for the rest of my life. And after relying on prescription pain medications for many years, I lost access to those pain medications through no fault of my own. I spent years struggling to manage my chronic pain until I discovered holy kratom powder. It gave me my life back. Kratom has been a lifeline for so many people like me who just want to live a meaningful, functional life. That my story is so common, and I think that regulation is key, and that's the right path. Definitely not banning. It should be available for those of us who are benefiting from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Last one is Kurt.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to introduce, I served in the Utah Senate in 2019, had the privilege of running the first Kratom Consumer Protection Act. I've listened to all of the testimony today and recognize the difficult task you're faced with. What I would strongly encourage you to do is follow the science. Follow the science from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, from Johns Hopkins, from University of Florida, and others that have very clearly indicated that pure plant Kratom products have some beneficial attributes that should not be removed from the market, but they should be regulated. We have learned from sad experience regulating controlled substances is difficult. The war on drugs. You look at all of the illicit drugs that are clearly in the market in every one of our states, and it's easier for industry to have a reasonable regulatory structure. The industry is following it. It will protect consumers, and the net benefit shouldn't be the victim of a total ban. Strongly encourage you to take a look at banning 7-OH and any adulterated products, but allow the marketplace to have safe Kratom, whole plant Kratom products available. That's what we did in Utah. That's what we've done in some 19 states now with very positive outcomes. So thank you. I retired from the Senate last year, but this was a bill that we ran here in 2019. So thank you very much.
Hey, Kurt, are you a lobbyist for the industry now?
I'm a consultant. I'm no longer lobbying for them.
All righty.
I'm here testifying as a citizen that I'm not being compensated for this testimony. I'm here testifying as someone who has a son-in-law that died of died of an opioid overdose, and I firmly believe that had we known about Kratom, it would have saved his life.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, I apologize. If you could send your comments through email to us, I would appreciate that. We're going to move to closing comments. Senator Knox.
All right, so I am in my professional life outside of here, working substance abuse, high risk, violent, street level stuff. And the unfortunate piece, it sounds like even if this product is beneficial to some, it appears that there's too many unintended consequences that we're dealing with right now. And I heard a whisper about, is this kind of like the K2 epidemic that we had? To me, it smells too similar to that. I don't know if this is a perfect bill. We can't arrest our way out of drug abuse. I agree with you wholeheartedly. People need to obviously have drug assessments, evaluations, and I think maybe the penalties. I hate arresting our way out of drug use and drug addiction, but at this point, I don't see any other way but to sign this thing on and move it forward on my behalf. Hearing some of the testimony, it seems like it's bad actors doing bad things, bathroom chemists, as you call it, but the unintended consequence may be that a good product is off the market until we figure out some better ways to regulate it.
Just say if we can't ban it, let's tax it. It's a joke. But and seriously, yeah, like you said, we got a product that can be used correctly and provide some benefit, but we see those instances where not having the proper education, if it mixes with something else, that it causes a fatal fatality. So I would like to keep this conversation going. So I will sign it out. And we, of course, I think we need to wait to see what the federal government does with it, because we don't want to be in contradiction with the FDA. But I do want to see this conversation continued.
All right, thank you. Yeah, a few of my thoughts. I guess I'll share now. Usually I wait for a committee, but I looked up different countries that have banned it, and I'm just really surprised at the different kinds of countries banned it. We have Japan, Malaysia, Romania, Russia, Singapore, South Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam, which is where a lot of the Kratom or Kratom comes from. But I'm certainly in favor of not moving this too fast, because I know the House is will be having an interesting conversation internally within their caucus about this, and I want to make sure that we get this right. I did have a constituent that reached out to me this morning about the questions on scheduling. I'll save those questions for staff and following this meeting, just to educate myself as to, are we overscheduling this potentially, or what does the different scheduling mean? That's just not in my wheelhouse. I know corn and beans, that's all I know. So, but also this weekend I had some fun going through my district to different retailers that sell it. I heard a lot of interesting stories. All of them were in favor of either banning or highly regulating it. They told me some of their personal stories as well, how they had some negative things. I was just like, well, why are you still selling it then? So, so when I hear that type of language from my own district of people that sell it that are highly concerned, something definitely needs to be done. So I appreciate the stories and testimonies here today. It was a good conversation, and we will move the bill forward. Thank you.
Oh, I gotta take it off, huh?
Is it already over?
I guess.
Oh, duh.
I want to wait. I want to wait till they end. Yep.